I'm a ground up guy, and the reason that I do ground up construction and I do ground up to multifamily is because of the spread of profitability that I make when I build it ground up. Plus, it's a brand new product. You don't have to service. The maintenance is early on. Your capital reserve doesn't have to be quite as high in the early part of stabilizing that property. And the profitability long-term is just way more profitable. That's why I love the ground up game. We're scaling to multifamily. And one of the things that you have to know when you're scaling to multifamily is how to underwrite multifamily. Now, I'm a ground up guy, and the reason that I do ground up construction and I do ground up to multifamily is because of the spread of profitability that I make when I build it ground up. Plus, it's a brand new product. You don't have to service. The maintenance is early on. Your capital reserve doesn't have to be quite as high in the early part of stabilizing that property. And the profitability long-term is just hand over foot, way more profitable. That's why I love the ground up game. So let's talk about an 8-unit development, because for most people that are watching this right now, walking into a 200-unit development like we're building may seem overwhelming. Now, we started with small buildings, 8,000 square feet. We still went up to 12,000 square feet, then 25,000 square feet, then 50,000 square feet, then 100,000 square feet. And now we're building 200-plus unit developments in excess of 200,000 square feet, warehouse buildings in excess of 150,000 square feet. And so it's just a progression of life as you resume up and you actually come in from the ground up game and start someplace, which is at the small assets, and you grow. And what's cool is that there's massive profitability from the ground floor all the way up. In fact, so much so that some people are going to come in, they're going to take this and run with it. And when they do, they're going to sit back and go, Jerome, why in the world did you ever scale out of the small stuff? Because there's so profitability. The real question is, how do you know I did get out of the small stuff? Because a lot of what we're doing right now, because of the cusp in real estate and the way interest rates are compressing values, is the small stuff, ladies and gentlemen, is where there's massive profitability to enter the game. And even if you're in the game for quick cash flow, to be able to come in and make massive profits that really, where do you go out and make them anywhere else? So let's join in and let's figure out exactly how to scale into the ground up game in multifamily construction, 8-unit developments. Now, here's the step-by-step process of what we do. We tie up the land. Once you go in and you look for a land, now we just found a lot in downtown Phoenix. There was 4 rentals, single-family homes on 2 lots. So each lot had a duplex essentially, and we're leveling that. We overpaid for the land by just a little bit because we didn't look at it as a land acquisition or a purchase acquisition for 4 single-family homes. The way we looked at it was a land acquisition for 24 units of apartments. And in fact, so much so we landed up with 29 units of multifamily, of which the vast majority are 1 bedrooms, and about 1/3 of it is 2-bedroom apartments. And we're going to make between $3 and $4 million into the next 14 months on this one development. Now, let's say that you go in and you buy just a small random lot, someplace that needs housing. You go in and you pick up an 8-unit lot, okay? Now, it doesn't have to be like our East Taylor Street project that we're doing in downtown Phoenix. You can just go in and find this anywhere. It doesn't even have to be in the most astute area of town. If it's in an area that's just experiencing a little bit of renovation, where people are strategically coming in, renovating homes, and where there's typically distressed assets like in downtown areas or university areas where real estate gets ran down, homeless people are running rampant, but there's no other place for good young families to live that want to live in these areas. People that are working on their master's degrees, doctors that are working on their internships, their rotations, and doctors that are out there doing their residency, professors that are living in the university areas, people that are working downtown, they're high-level executives that don't want to be bottlenecked out in the suburban areas. They don't have families yet, they don't have kids, and they want some place that's in the mix of things. So as you see these renovation areas going into effect in every major city across the United States, because there is no more land in those given areas, this is your opportunity to come in and scrape. Come in and scrape and build an 8-unit development. Now, here's what it looks like. Let's say, for sake of example, you walk in. The first thing that you're going to do when you get that 8-unit is you're going to go in and get a survey, okay? You're going to get a survey of the lot. If you can't get a survey, you're going to use an app like Landglide, or you're going to use an aerial view from Google Earth, and you're going to take the dimensions of that lot over to your architect, okay? Your architect and your engineers are going to take that, and they're going to put together a conceptual drawing of how many units and density that you can fit on that lot, taking into consideration fire trucks being able to turn around and you being able to go in and have put enough parking. So for sake of example, you have a lot. Let's say that you do 4 units right here, 4 units right here. This is a driveway in, and this is a driveway in the back right here. A truck can come in, back up, and then turn out forward. They'll come in this way, and then they'll come in, and then they'll come out forward this way. And so a fire truck can come in and out of that property, and you have 4 units, okay, on each side. Okay, that conceptually is what they're going to do for you with this architect and survey. Now, you're going to take this to the city, and you're going to start working on getting approval. Now, once you get approval on your site plan, or at least a thumbs up that would be something that they would entertain as an option, then you start working on your civil engineering. You have your architect start going into your building designs, and you start working with your electrical engineers, your plumbing and mechanical engineers. You start working with your fire sprinkler engineers, and you go to work with them coming up with 8 units of multifamily for you. Now, these are real simple builds. I know it sounds like an undertaking when you're talking about all these engineers, but the architect will help you with this. The meetings with the city, the architect will help you with this. In fact, I would not onboard an architect that does not help you with this. Now, I typically do this while the land is just tied up. I haven't even purchased it yet. Now, for most of you guys have been working with us buying land, building houses. You say, where do you get this money? You either get it from other people's pockets, you get it from investors. Because when you come back in and you learn the process of entitlements, then you could take the entitlements to a group. You could take them to an investors meetup similar to the ones that we do monthly. And if those investors meetups, there's other investors. Some people are buyers, some people are sellers. Some people are strictly just investors. And when you go in, they're seeking deals. And if you have the right deal because you've listened to Jerome Maldonado in the strategic way of going out and developing multifamily real estate, they're going to invest with you. Now, you have to learn the proper way to entitle. So at the end of this video, I'm going to recommend turning dirt into dollars. There's a 5-day land challenge on how to find land in single family and commercial real estate that you can opt into right after this video. Now, once you go in and you tie up the land, here's the process that you're going to take. After you tie up the land and you get the survey, you get the architects, you get the engineering, you're getting ready for permits and lending, okay? So you're getting ready for permits. I try to get to the finish line with this right here and this right here before I go in and actually purchase the land. Sometimes I'll buy the land on what's called owner financing, and sometimes I'll just go to the bank, and the bank's first draw will be for the land itself. And then there's other times that we'll just purchase the land. If it's a few $100,000 for something this small, we'll just go in, we'll write a check for it because we have cash, because we've been buying land and building houses for many, many years. And one of those houses alone, we can write a check and just buy the land, and then we go to work on this stuff, and then we go get lending. We exit some of our money back out, and we go back to work to put another one of these deals together. Now, what does it look like? When you go in, you get an 8-unit apartment complex. I want a pro forma. I want to know what rents are going for in that area. The way you do that is you get a pro forma. Pro forma means you want to know what the performance is for rent rates in that given area at that specific time. And so you want to know what this property is going to bear as far as returns from before you actually build the asset. Because if you can't get it to pencil, meaning you can't get it to cash flow, then you don't build it, okay? Now, when we go in, we already know what that property is going to bear based on what is being rented at what price in that given area in the current state of the market today. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, today. And so we'll take in these four units on each side. And let's say, for sake of example, these are 2 bedrooms, these are 1 bedrooms, or let's say this is a 2, a 2, a 1, a 1, a 1, a 1, a 2, a 2. And the average square footage of these is 850 square feet. Let's say the 1 bedrooms are like 650, and let's say that the 2 bedrooms are 950. That's an average of 850 square feet. Now, once we do that, let's say the similar apartments, the 2 bedrooms are leasing for $2,200 a month. Let's say that the 1 bedrooms are leasing for someplace right around $1,700 a month. This includes your base rent and all rubs. Rubs are rental upgrades that you're paying for, like pets. These are rental upgrades that you're paying for laundry service or for trash service, your application fees, all expenses you're paying. On average, you're getting $2,200 and $1,700 a month, for sake of example, on these small 8-unit builds. Now, I like building these in areas that can support a little bit higher rents. Now, this is slightly higher than the national average, not by much, but slightly higher than the national average. Now, if you go into an area and you have new construction, you're typically going to rent for above the national average anyways, being that it's new construction, okay? People they love the taste and feel of new. So for the taste and feel of new, most people are willing to pay an extra $50 a month for rent to be able to go in and live in a nicer community, a nicer place that's a lot newer. Now, you take that, let's say for sake of example, we have the 2,200 plus the 1,700 equals divided by 2. That's going to be 1,950. So your average rents, okay, now we're going to multiply this times 8. It's 15,600. We're going to divide that by 8. Okay, and then we're going to multiply this number times 12 because everything is annualized, guys. Take that, multiply that times 12, and that's going to be $187,000. Okay, this is your gross income potential. Okay, $187,200. Okay, now most multifamily revolves at a 5% revolution. So typically, I'll never underwrite real estate, especially multifamily, at 100% gross operating income. I'll take that as my gross income potential. That's the potential that property has to rent. And then I'll go in, I want my gross operating income. And my gross operating income, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be 95% of this. So times 95%, okay? So we'll take 187 times 0.95, and that's 177,840, okay? Now that's our gross operating income, okay? Now, from our gross operating income, let's figure out NOI, okay? Let's figure out the NOI. We're going to come back up here. Let's figure out our NOI. Now, NOI stands for net operating income. We take our gross operating income, and how do we figure out our net operating income? Now, we're just doing a quick table underwriting on this to make sure that it even passes just a sniff test, ladies and gentlemen. Typically, once we know the project is going to go, we will go in and off the pro formas, they'll tell us what that market is actually bearing as far as expenses for landscaping, for property taxes, for insurance, for everything. And so based off the pro forma of similar properties in the area, that pro forma will tell you the percentage of the gross operating income that goes to expenses. That way you can figure out your net operating income. Because all net operating income is, the simplicity of what a net operating income is you take your gross operating income minus all expenses, okay? That does not include debt service. Debt service is a variable that's not included as an expense because you may pay cash for that. The expense of debt is always going to vary. This is all expenses which include insurance, property taxes, light bulbs, toilets, landscaping, all of the expenses, capital expenses including roofs, drywall, stucco, all of that stuff. And you take the expenses on an annual basis, subtract them from your gross operating income, that'll give you your NOI. Now, the national average is about 40% to run a property. Now, this property is small, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you it'll probably cost you less than 25 to 30% to actually run this. But let's just do it based on the national average of 40%. So what we're going to do is we're going to take in our expenses, we're going to take our gross operating income times 0.40, okay? So times 40%. So we take 177 times 0.40. That's going to be $71,000. So we're going to take 177, we're going to take 177,840. That's our gross operating income. We're going to subtract $71,136. Okay, this is our expense. Okay, so our NOI is going to be equivalent to $106,000, 704. Okay, that's our net operating income. Now, this is golden, ladies and gentlemen. Remember this number. We're going to call it 106,700. 106,700. So we got an NOI. Okay, that's our net operating income, 8 units. Now, we go in. We need to figure out value, right? Because if we can't build it for the price that the value is, then you can't build it at all. So the biggest thing is understanding what the value is. So in today's market, banks are underwriting these real estate at 6% cap rates. Now, we're underwriting them at both 6% and 5%. We want to see what the potential of that property is, provided that interest rates go down and cap rates also go down in alignment with interest rates, because we want to see what the potential of the property is, but we want to underwrite it for today's real numbers. And we know that we can go in and retain a HUD loan at a 6% interest rate and stabilize that property at 6% cap rate and know that we're going to cash flow positive and make sure that that property is safe in spite of the current market conditions, high interest rates, and the volatility of everything that's happening right now, because we can lock into a 6% stabilized loan with HUD that'll last 30 years, okay? And so as long as we know that property is going to cash flow, once it's cash flowing, the rents are only going to go up over the course of time, slowly and marginally, but we know we have a healthy, stable property that can take the test of time and not worry about the volatility that the rest of the market is undertaking under any other type of market circumstance. So right now, we want to make sure that we underwrite this at a 6% cap rate. So what we land up doing is value equals NOI divided by cap rate. Okay, that's how you assess value. This is the way banks assess value. So if you want to go in and take your 106, you just divide that by 6%. Okay, so we take a 6%, so times 0.06. I've just continued just utilizing the same numbers right in my calculator, one by one, ladies and gentlemen. It's one by one, dividing them out. Okay, so times 6%, we're going to go in, 106,700. That's a stabilized value of $1,778,333. Okay, that's my value. Okay, that's today's current market. Now, can we build this for that price is the big question. Can we build this for that price? So what we do is we go back and we take this square footage, and I'm going to underwrite for you guys a quick penciling of can you build this. Okay, so we have 850 square feet times 8 units. Okay, so now we're going to do, this is value, now cost. Now we're going to go over cost to build. You guys are getting all the gold today, all the gold, and a little, and breakfast too. All the gold, eggs, bacon, pancakes, and blueberries, all in it, all at once today. Okay, you're getting the whole shebang. Orange juice, coffee, water, butter, jelly, all of it. You get all of it today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your value, cost to build. 850, we need the square footage because I need to see what the cost to build it is, and we always assess the cost to build based on square footage. So you take 850 square feet, we know that there's 8 units. There's not going to be a sales office, there's not going to be swimming pools, there's not going to be clubhouses, there's not going to be any of that stuff. All there's going to be, ladies and gentlemen, is 8 friggin' units. 8 units. It's a simple property. So 850 square feet, that's the abbreviation for square feet, equals, so we take 850 times 8 equals 6,800 square feet. Okay, remember what I said at the beginning of this video? I started out building little 8,000 square feet retail centers, guys. Little 8,000 square feet retail centers. You're smaller than that, 6,800 square feet. That's like building 2 3,400 square foot houses. And for a lot of you guys that have been buying land, building houses, you guys, that may just be 2 or 3 homes. If you're in Texas, that's maybe 2 of our homes within our business model. If you're not in Texas, where you're building everything bigger and better, you can go out into any other city and build 2,500 square foot homes. That's less than 3 builds. So as you scale into this and resume up over the course of 1 or 2 years, that's like building 2 homes at the exact same time, ladies and gentlemen. Super simple, very palatable, very realistic, mentally and physically. Okay, so we go in, we have 6,800 square feet. Sorry, I put the dollar sign there just by habit. Okay, 6,800 square feet. Okay, now we're building on average, the average cost to build is $141 a square foot. There's a little bit more to the multifamily. So let's say it's $160 a square foot to build multifamily. Okay, so we're going to take this number times $160 per square foot. We take 6,800 square feet times 160. That's going to cost us $1,088 to build that. Okay, so our build cost on that is $1,088. That's our cost to build. Okay, cost to build. Okay, now we have land, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to buy the land. So 8 units, what I always tell people, ladies and gentlemen, is you're going to have to spend a little more for an 8 unit than you normally would for the average. We tell people do not spend more than $15 per unit for the land when you go in on most large developments. So that would be 15 times 8. That's $120,000 for the land. Okay, let's say it's $150,000 that you pay for that land because you have less units and it's in a prime area. So you add $150,000, so land cost. Now, when you're doing this, ladies and gentlemen, one of the big things that you want to pay attention to, this cost to build includes soft cost and hard cost. That's your architect fees, your engineering fees, which are not a lot on a small little project like this. You might spend someplace in the neighborhood out of this $1,088,000, someplace in the neighborhood of about $30,000 or $40,000 for architect and engineering fees. You may even spend close to $60,000, but that's included in your cost to build. We're building at really $152 a square foot, real world costs right now in today's current market. Even with inflated lumber prices, that was what our cost to build is. So our cost to build now actually has softened a little bit, but we're still underwriting at what it was costing at the highest inflationary time for lumber and commodities at that given time. So this is in excess of that. This has some cushion in here for contingencies and unforeseen variables. You got a land cost of $150,000, and you're also going to have some debt service, ladies and gentlemen. So you're going to have some debt service on this. Now, I don't want, this right here on the underwriting is a lesson all in itself on how to assess debt service. So I'm not going to go through all of it today. Just understand that this amount escalates over the course of a build. 6,800 square feet will take you about 6 months to build, ladies and gentlemen. From the time that you sit back and you've actually turned dirt, it's going to take you someplace in the neighborhood of about 6 months from start to finish to build this asset. Now, let's say it takes you an entire year and this escalates. You're usually going to take 30% of the interest rate. So if you're getting an interest rate, and they're out there with local lenders right now of 7.5% on $1 million plus the 150, let's say we have $200,000. Okay, let's just round that. Let's round that out because it's going to be less than this anyways. Times 0.075. Okay, now that's $90,000 if you pay interest on both of these for an entire year. Now we typically will pay out about 30% into our debt service. Let's just take half of that. We know we normally pay 50%, 30% of what we're figuring here because of the escalation of how they give you money in draws a little bit at a time as you progress through your project. Let's not take all of it, but let's just take part of it. We know it's underwritten at 30%. Let's take it at half, okay? So divided by 2, that's $45,000 in debt service, okay? So we're going to have $45,000 in debt service to be able to underwrite this. Okay, now, total cost, okay, we take $45,000 plus $150,000 plus $1,088,283,000 is our total cost to build. Now, that's great, but I want to know, can I get a loan to be able to pay that off? Or do I have to do what's called a cash-in refinance? And that's what's scary right now, is making sure. So as much as you say, you sit back and go, yeah, I got $500,000 of equity play in this. Wait, ladies and gentlemen, because you have to finance this at a minimum of 80% loan to value. We know what the value is here, so let's figure out what both our 75% and our 80% is. 75% and our 80%, and the reason why is because we want this, right? This is what we want, but the reality is this might be what we get right here, okay? Now, HUD lending, we're still able to go in and get 80%, but if you're getting any other type of traditional lending, it might only come out to be 75% loan to value. So if we come in and we take this, multiply it by 75%, we go $1,778,333 times 0.75. The bank is willing to give us $1.33 million. Okay? Can we finance this? Can we get out of it? Can we go in and stabilize it at a 6% cap rate and have cash flow? That's the question. Can we do that? And the answer is yes. The bank's willing to give us this to finance that. We're good. We can get the loan. 80%, even better. We go in at 80%. We take $1,778,333 times 0.8. That's $1.42 million. Okay, so the bank's willing to give us $1.42 million. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these are conservative underwritings, and you walk in with about $500,000 of equity in there. You can cost segregate this at about 80% the first year right now at a bonus depreciation, and that depreciation never expires. And you don't have to pay federal income taxes on 80% of the bonus depreciation minus the land. Now, that's a whole different course in itself as well. Now, I'm going to recommend the other video of cost segregation and depreciation of assets at the end of this video, so you can also watch that one as well. Now, the last thing, ladies and gentlemen, is remember, we stabilize this asset at a 6% cap rate. So we take the value times 6%. We want to know what our cash-on-cash return is and what this thing is actually cash flowing. Well, our cash flow positive, we're going to take $1,778,333 and multiply that, ladies and gentlemen, by times 0.06. Your cash flow positive, $106,699 cash flow positive. So now your cash flow on 6% cash rate, your cash flow is $106,700 per year. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you compound your success. So your cash on cash return, ladies and gentlemen, your cash flow is $106,700 a year. Look, this is a 6-month build. Let's say the entire acquisition took you 1 year or even a year and a half to do. People will work a 30-year career and not have $106,000 in cash flow. They'll go in and they'll work their entire lives. They won't have $500,000 in equity in their home. You could build one 8-unit apartment complex. One deal is life-changing for the vast majority of the average people out there. And the undertaking of doing this is very simple. I tell people, buy a piece of land. Learn how to build a house. Make $100,000 on it doing it, or better. Take that money and deploy it as a down payment to do something like this. One 8-unit development, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to build hundreds of units. You can go out and just build a small 8-unit apartment complex. Keep it forever. And ladies and gentlemen, this is wealth. That's wealth. Because when you go to work and you just have a small little 8-unit apartment complex, that's life-changing for the vast majority of people around the world. So understand that multifamily, multi-unit real estate is something that can change lives if you pay attention, you apply yourself to a real business. It's not NFTs and it's not cryptocurrency. This is real business, real money, long-term, that's going to produce real revenue for people and change lives. And it can start by changing yours. 8-unit apartment complex, $106,000. Ladies and gentlemen, this is priceless. This is how you compound money. This is how you compound your success. For more videos just like this, click and subscribe to our YouTube channel and smash that thumbs up button because I know you like this shit. Smash that thumbs up button. Let's get you building multifamily.